Imagine waking up one morning, becoming the ruler of a country, declaring war on a powerful empire, and losing the entire war before most people had finished breakfast. This is not a movie plot. It actually happened. In 1896, a conflict began between the British Empire and the Sultanate of Zanzibar. And depending on the historical account, the entire war lasted somewhere between approximately 38 and 45 minutes. Welcome to The Hidden Chapter. Every story has a chapter they forgot to tell you. At the end of the 19th century, Zanzibar was a strategically important island off the coast of East Africa. Its location made it valuable to powerful foreign nations competing for influence in the region. Britain had significant influence over Zanzibar. And while the Sultan technically ruled the island, the British government had considerable power over who could occupy the throne. Then on August 25, 1896, Sultan Hamad bin Thawani suddenly died. The circumstances surrounding his death have been debated by historians. But what happened next was much less mysterious. Within hours, his cousin, Khalid bin Bargash, moved into the palace and declared himself the new sultan. There was only one problem. The British did not approve. The British government wanted a different candidate on the throne. Khalid, however, refused to leave the palace. Instead, he gathered supporters around him. By the next day, thousands of people had assembled in support of the new sultan. Khalid also had access to soldiers, weapons, and a small collection of artillery. From his perspective, he was defending his claim to the throne. From the British perspective, he was challenging their authority. The situation quickly became a standoff. And then Britain issued an ultimatum: leave the palace or face military action. The deadline arrived on the morning of August 27th. The British had warships positioned near the coast. The palace was defended by soldiers and artillery. The tension must have been extraordinary. Then the deadline passed. Khalid did not surrender. At approximately 9 in the morning, the British opened fire, and the difference in military power became immediately obvious. The palace was bombarded. The defending forces were overwhelmed. Buildings caught fire, and within less than an hour, the conflict was effectively over. The war had lasted approximately 38 minutes. Some historical accounts give slightly different figures, but the event is widely remembered as the shortest war in recorded history. The casualties were dramatically unequal. Zanzibar suffered the overwhelming majority of the casualties. The British forces suffered little or no loss of life during the bombardment, depending on how the conflict's casualties are counted. The palace was destroyed, the rebellion had failed, and Khalid bin Bargash fled to the German consulate. He was later taken to German East Africa. But here is the part that makes this story more complicated than a simple historical curiosity. The war was short, but the political consequences lasted much longer. The conflict demonstrated the enormous power imbalance between European imperial powers and local rulers during the age of imperial expansion. The Sultanate of Zanzibar continued to exist after the war, but its independence was severely limited. The event is often remembered as a strange record, the shortest war in history. But behind that record was a much larger story about imperialism, political power, succession, and the fate of nations caught between competing empires. The 38-minute war was not really just about how quickly one side won. It was about how quickly the balance of power could decide the fate of an entire country. A throne was claimed. An ultimatum was issued. A war began. And before the morning was over, it had ended. History is full of stories that sound impossible. Sometimes the strangest stories are the ones that really happen. This is The Hidden Chapter. Every story has a chapter they forgot to tell you. In 1896, a new sultan claimed the throne of Zanzibar and refused to leave the palace. The British government issued an ultimatum. When the deadline passed, the bombardment began. Less than an hour later, the conflict was over. The Anglo-Zanzibar War is widely remembered as the shortest war in recorded history. But behind the astonishing 38-minute timeline lies a much larger story of imperial power, political succession, and the changing world of the late 19th century. This is the story of the war that was almost over before it had truly begun. Welcome to The Hidden Chapter, where every story has a chapter they forgot to tell you.